Forge. I'm Big Cloudwise, and today we have WebC here with us. And today we are going to be talking about, hey, we see you, man. We see you. We are going to be talking about, none other than FTL and some of the ships that we like and the theory behind it. Let's dig into it.
Hey everybody.
So,
While we're doing all that, I'm going to be hanging out there, building some model parts and stuff along with Bit, and we'll be talking about it. I got my computer pulled up over here, and I was going to actually, I just had a thought, and I'm just going to type in, Bit wanted to talk about Warhammer 40K, so I'm going to see if there's somewhere written down if there's like any kind of anything about the science of Warhammer's warp system.
so as of late, there has been a large discussion within the NASA community and the science tech world community about FTL and what it is beginning to look like. And it's getting really interesting, some of the stuff that is coming up. And meanwhile, here is one of the legs for the Freedom 2.0 Psycho frame. I've got a little bit of touch-up work to do, but it's coming along really well. I'm really pleased with it. I even got the parts where when it separates, you can see the Psycho frame inside.
Nice.
Like, I don't even know, like, that was by sheer happenstance, to be honest. I got lucky with that one.
See. Alright, so I found this readout for Warhammer 40K.
Oh, yeah?
And it reads as this. The overview of it, warp space is a mere dimension of pure energy existing as a mirror to our own reality. The materium, it is the domain of the gods of chaos. These gods dwell in their own realms, perpetually battling for one another in a struggle known as the Great Game. The size of these realms expand and contracts as the power of the warp ebbs and flows.
See, what I was talking about in 40K wasn't the warp. It's called the webway. The webway, it was discovered by the Eldar that were made by beings that they worshipped in 30K, I would say, as far as timeline goes. And like as the Chaos War started to grow, the Emperor God of the Terrans, or what we would be, started to discover them. So that's what I was getting at. That would be more like what we would consider warp as far as our view of it.
Right. And so,
It's basically a whole bunch of interlocking like corridors, basically what we would call wormholes.
there's
Wormhole.
like paragraphs for me to read, but yeah. It goes on to say the common analogy to describe warp space compares to a warp to a vastity of energy, which is subject to constant movement, currents, and undertones, etc. The material space and real space bear a relationship as the dimensions parallel with each other. The fact that they share this relationship allows a warp-capable craft to enter the warp, carried for a time along the warp flows without re-emerging into real space. So, in Warhammer, what I'm getting is warp is like a network of wormholes, and you can like tap into it by having a ship that's capable of catching the ride.
Mm-hmm.
The turtles. The turtles! Finding Nemo! The turtles! Just ride.
All right, Dory.
Uh, anyways, Alright, so I understand that from getting that next. So we're done with that one. Um,
So why don't you do one of your ships?
well, hold on, we're in Warhammer still, so we're going to talk about, let's talk about this Apocalypse class battleship.
All right, so is that Terran or Terran Chaos?
Alright,
Because
well,
there are differences between the two.
well, yeah, I'm getting definitely two different images here, so hold on. It's just a class, so it doesn't specify what group. I think each group has their own version of that class ship.
Well, yeah, and then Chaos Army, they have a little bit more of a different loadout because they're the ones that are corrupted by the warp. They're also deformed and like there's massive things wrong with them. Some are even possessed. By the way, if anybody is into 40K watching,
This would be the one. This would be the one London used by the Imperial Navy to curb the crisis of too many battleships and grand cruisers attempting to lead chaos related events.
well, yeah, I just
No, yeah, no. Like I said, I don't know much about Warhammer 40K, so I'm reading it. What you're saying makes sense along the lines of what this also says. I'm just making sure I tell you what I'm reading. Um, yeah, but this one is says that the Imperial Navy runs this battleship, the specific one I'm reading about.
the Imperium Navy.
However, the array of candidates themselves can be notoriously unreliable when stressed with fire and power gens, such as sap energy, drives, making the apocalypse stylish in the midst of battle. Okay, so it also gives you the breakdowns about the ship, but they're not giving me, well, there is a history, the design section, there's an armament section, which is propulsion. The Conquest class is a sublet plasma drive engines for space travel and warp drive engines for entering the immaterium for faster than light travel. The ship also has a handful of trained psychic navigators. So it kind of means that's a thing. You gotta have like people with psychic capabilities, new types, perhaps. You know,
Have to be
um,
they're called psyker or seekers.
okay. And let's see. Hazardous alternate dimensions of the warp using blinding psychic light of the Astronomicam. Yeah, Astronomicam on Terra as a reference point to travel vast distances across space. Yeah, so they just go into their application in the Imperial fleet, Third War for Armageddon, Apocalypse, notable Apocalypse class battleships. So throughout the history of 40K, they also have like a list here that talks about the different ships that have been. So the Duke Alvarez, the Farsighter, the Godfrey Magnificent, Iswell, and Triumph. So these are all notable ships that they've brought up. And
Yes.
the Eureka Dominus is the first one. So that one it has a really big paragraph compared to the rest. So I'm imagining that these ships all play significant roles in turning tides of battles for the captains.
Well, hmm. Like I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
What's that
The last part you read off.
about?
The shit what you just the last part that you just got done reading, whatever you just said very last before
That
I asked.
was like my opinion.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
Oh, I said. So it seems like these ships have like a significance to turn the tide of war. These specific ships.
Yes, they're all command vessels within the Imperium, like the Ultramarines or the Blood Angels. They're all Imperium ships within certain clans of the Ultra, like the elite of the Imperium.
Okay. So,
Like there's a lot that goes into these ships. Like there's a lot of stuff in these things. They're crazy huge. They're called there's ones that are just made for like battleships in the Imperium are called war barges. Well,
how does
well, I might have the name wrong. That might be just a platform within the game I was playing.
I'm sorry, I'm over here on a different thing.
Oh, okay.
You just said the words out loud because I was typing them. I'm sorry. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Hyperdrive. All right, we're gonna move into the next move, which is hyperdrive. The next way to move through space with hyperdrive is occasionally the preferred method in Star Wars. The hyperdrive, occasionally called warp drive, was a vital starship engine system that allowed vessels to enter hyperspace to traverse the vast distances of space faster than the speed of light. The hyperdrive was thus a key technology in the foundation of a galactic society, trade, and war. The construction and working principle of a hyperdrive were based on hyperdrive theory. The term describes the engines and components required for its use, such as the motivator and the field guide. In numbers, the hyperdrive allowed travelers to traverse the galaxy spanning over 120 light years in only a few hours or days. The exact travel time depending on a number of factors, including destination, point of origin, route, and class of hyperdrive. So in Star Wars, um, a Star Destroyer is going to be able to travel further faster than a TIE fighter.
Well, see,
TIE
there's the
fighter,
thing. TIE fighters are short range fighters. They
right,
don't
right. Most TIE
entry,
fighters
on
aren't
the other
equipped.
have a warp drive.
Yeah, let me finish speaking, please.
Yeah. But yes, they would be severely limited to probably a system jump, maybe.
Well, okay, so there are certain types of TIE fighters that can make warp jumps, but they have to be they're the ones with the double pods. So
Double
pod,
pod is actually the bomber, and that one does have a significant range.
well, there's the bomber, and then there's another one. And the other one that I'm talking about, it actually the whole pod, instead of it carrying any weapons, it carries a long range warp drive system to where
Oh, that's a scout ship.
right. So they do make them. Like I said, it's just the regular TIE fighters that that usually see them fighting against in the movie. Those TIE fighters are just those are like the little peons that just pop out of a Star Destroyer.
Yeah, they're the cannon fodder. The proverbial Star Trek red shirts.
Yeah. So no no biggie there. However, um, X wings on the other side of the battlefield, X wings, Y wings, A wings are all equipped with hyperdrives.
Yep. So are the B wings, and there's a few other ships that aren't talked about that are within fighter classes, but with all in the Rebel Alliance, yes, all their star fighters have warp capability.
Yeah. So that's one of the things where, like, on one side they didn't feel like they needed to have a whole bunch of warp capable ships. They just needed one big warp capable ship to take them all to where they needed to go. On the other side, everybody needed to be warp capable just because, well, sometimes you need to scatter, you know?
Yep. If
So,
you if you're rebels, you need to be able to disperse, and come back together at any random point.
so that was more of the reason why they would do that. And then hyperdrives are usually built from a titanium chromium compound. This compound is specifically designed to allow hyperdrives to withstand the continual stress caused by traveling between the dimensions of real space and hyperspace.
So, from what I'm gathering, a lot of what we're like the theory within a lot of what we've come across so far, it is kind of it's a sub.
In a sense, yeah. Um, so it's like it's like, what is it? You reach a certain level of vibration and you're unlocking a new movement. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they're saying.
Hmm.
Each one is like, currently it's all hinting at like this. It's all vibrations. We'll move on. All right. So the next one we'll be moving to Star Trek, right?
Mm, that one's a little bit more known.
Yeah. Well,
I've met a lot more Trekkies than Star Trek. Or Star. I've met a lot more Trekkies than Star Wars as of late.
so in Star Trek, where'd it go? I just had it.
Did you check that one other place about that other place
No.
on there? You there?
I'm here. I'm reading. Hold on.
Oh,
I was trying to get to the right spot. So this is
ah,
the only thing that matters from Star Trek that we need to know. Warp drive in Star Trek works by annihilating matter in the form of deuterium, a kind of hydrogen gas, and antimatter in a fusion reaction mediated by dilithium crystals. This produces the enormous power required to warp space and time and drive the ship faster than light.
hello.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can hear you. I was trying to find something. Ah,
So
got off my pen.
so that's how they're talking about creating warp in this universe compared to Star Trek. Now, remember, Star Trek uses a fuel. Or no, not Star Trek. Star Wars. Star Wars uses a fuel.
Star Trek uses a dilithium crystal.
Yeah. So, and the crystal just goes inside this little device that passes matter through the device to excite the crystals.
Mm-hmm.
Bam. So run through that pretty quickly. All right. So with that all said, how would you expect to use or to manipulate matter or to transfer? How do you think we would use any of this concept in reality? What would we do? Well, how
Well,
would you think it would be better to create FTL? Would you rather to be able to move and not feel that you were moving? Or would you rather be able to feel that you're moving? This is a big important question.
this, I think it would be better to be kind of unaware. because you can trick your mind if you don't have all the senses knowing that you're in motion. So, in theory, that would kind of be cool because then you would be less likely to get motion sickness.
What if I told you I have created a theory that, or I have, in my theory, I have solved the whole motion issue?
Oh,
So, and this all is based off of an experiment that Einstein did. But people are looking at the experiment in the wrong way. Everybody was too focused on how, how the light was traveling during the experiment. And nobody was paying attention to the fact that the train sped up gradually and slowed down gradually. Nobody thought about it. Nobody's thinking about that part. Nobody cares. It's like not on the talking table. But I think we need to
that's the important part.
we need to reassess how we achieve warp. We can't like snap our fingers and go into warp. Like that would be ridiculous. However, you know, when we're on a train and the train starts moving, it goes chugga 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 chugga
It
chugga
has to get up to speed.
chugga. The speed, right? What if we developed a FTL engine that actually, instead of snapping us into speed, it gets us up to speed so that we, the traveler, don't feel the change in speed ever. We'll be constant, just like in Einstein's experiment. We'll be in there and we'll be constant and we'll be able to measure the speed of light and everything same way. And it'll be constant to our reality inside the ship. And as we're moving, it'll be fine. Everything around us, they'll see us moving really fast as we get up to speed, of course, right? But we won't see that, except for, the planets passing by like they're trees. That's what will be the difference, the scale of what will happen, which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
So how would we do that? What would be a feasible way to get us from point A to point B, um, in such a fashion where we don't need to carry fuel, where we don't need to worry about wasting resources? Um, what are some things we could use that we could utilize uh, within all of what we have access to? My first principle on this travel is, of course, starting slow and going faster and faster. Well, the first idea I had kind of is a little bit more difficult to achieve, but it can be achieved. What is that?
Oh, I was just turning something down.
Okay. Um. The so with that, one thought that I had is we electronically charge a particle and then take that particle and put it behind a magnet and make that magnet the same charge as the particle and get a repulsor reaction. Basically, take two north poles and try to push them together, and they'll push each other apart. And if you constantly do that, you can slowly pulsate your way to speeding up.
Kind of
That's
like
the
a train.
right. That's the first concept I had. But I was like, wait, what if we didn't have to rid ourselves of any fuel? What if we could create this pulse reaction without ridding ourselves of, or having to collect or rid the fuel? So then that comes in to what I've been thinking about lately is how to achieve a reaction from a mercury drive. Now, I'm a member of this group on social media called Anti Gravity Devices, and we constantly talk about different theories and different ways to go about things. And I'm always arguing my thoughts and stuff. But one of the things that is a common factor within the talking points is people are always drawn back to the device, the TR3B. And within the TR3B, they're talking about using a spun mercury as a gravitational well, and
Hold
then
on.
you can.
Oh, oh, something just happened. Give me a second here. Go ahead. Keep
Oh,
talking. Like,
all right,
WebC, keep talking. I've got to figure something out here real quick.
all right. So the gravitational well that can be pressed upon could possibly have the same reaction as my more primitive device, except for we would have the mercury contained so that we wouldn't lose any of the mercury. And all we would have to do is we would have to measure what charge is being put off by the mercury in its magnetic field as it winds up. Because as you spin mercury up, it can create a magnetic torus. And all we have to do is put find out what side of the torus is positive and what side is negative, and we just have to push on with the opposite force, right? I.e., a heavy electric magnet. Push on it, and it'll push away. And then the only other thing you have to do is you have to figure out how to get those two things to interact to push a spaceship forward, which is super easy. It's like a pogo stick kind of a thing or something. We wouldn't feel it. It would feel like it would just look like the engine was pulsing, like a hammer was being hit or something, a piston being moved. That's all it would
Like,
really be.
you would see basically like the thruster like engaged, but it wouldn't look like anything's coming out of it.
It wouldn't even, yeah, it wouldn't need to. There would be nothing to come out. You're just taking electricity and turning it into other forms of electricity, I guess. In that sense, like, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. It's really simple and easy, and I believe that like we'll be able to start using this even here, like in Earth, not just out of Earth, but like very soon, spun Mercury might be the way we travel with vehicles and stuff.
That's looking
Turning
really
on
good.
it comes like a little hover car off of these four orbs where your tires used to be. You'll have like four orbs of spun Mercury, and then you'll have like these electromagnets on top that you could turn up and down with your foot pedal to call it an acceleration. Then it'll make you move forward or sideways or whatever direction you need it to make you move. Um, I do have a very crude, primitive version of this um, in a different version. I don't know how else to say it. It's kind of crude in the sense of like, oh, the first version I did was I took a ceramic ball, two electromagnets, and a molten core of lead. And I was like, all right, we're going to take a ceramic paddle, put it inside this ceramic ball, and we're going to spin the paddle, which will take the lead that's melted, and it'll cause it to create spin inside of there. And eventually the lead will spin up and we'll get a little bit of gravity. Well, I was like, well, what if we took all these ceramic balls, lined them with metal, and then put them on a track with each other? Then we have like 20 of these balls creating these miniature toruses. And then we could make them spin like a tank tread. And if it spun like a tank tread while it was creating all these little toruses, then we could angle them left or right and it would shift up or down depending on how we were moving and stuff. There's a whole bunch of other work that's done in there, but that's just a general principle of my idea where I was going. I originally came up with.
Oh yeah, man! It sounds like you have really like not only put thought into just the theory, but you've done your research also, which
I don't call it research. I consume every bit of information that I can about the concept or the thought process of it. So I'm just consuming all the information I can, and I'm just taking in my mind what could be um, re- like reinvigorated as a device that we already have hands on, or things that we have access to, and just trying to apply them to the new science that I'm learning. That's more so what I do, I think. So I don't necessarily feel like I have any new ideas. I just feel like I'm just pushing uh, the old ideas into a new light. Hey, maybe we could do this instead of that, you know?
Yeah. Well, still, it took some thought to do, man. Like you did well on this.
Yeah, I mean,
How long have you like you said you've been working on it quite a bit, right?
well, the first thing I ever wrote down or drew or anything was in this book here that I have right here. And I can show you kind of like, so here's one of my crude drives. This is one of my first spaceships. This is just a crude drive. Anyways, from here, where my finger is right now, my camera's open anymore. But where my finger is right now, I'm pointing at what's actually an ion compressor drive. And that's what my first crude drive was. It was basically what it did was I finally did the math. I was like, okay, space is empty, right? We think space is empty, but really, what's in space and how many particles per whatever is in space? And I came to find that there's actually 1 part per centimeter cubed of atomic particles in space, which means there's like 4 or 5 atoms per per little tiny centimeter cube of space. It's like 4 or 5 little atoms, and that's it. And I was like, but that's 4 or 5 little atoms. Hey, if we have this ship going through space and it's sucking up all these atoms, these little 4 or 5 atoms per cubic centimeter, well, if we have it say it sucks in like 1,000 cubic centimeters, that's quite a bit. We pass it through an ion plate. Okay, cool. Then we compress all that compressed ionized atomic particles into a compression chamber, and then we spit that compression chamber angled at a magnet that's pushing a magnetic field out the back of the magnet. And as the cloud of atomic particles hits the magnet pulses off of the cloud. Every time a cloud gets shot out, a pulse of movement happens. So if you go, the magnet goes boo 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 boo, and goes faster and faster every time. It's almost kind of like uh, it's kind of like what I'm talking about with gradual increased propulsion. So the first pulse, you just move a little bit. Then the second pulse, you move a little bit faster. And by the time you're getting like 100 pulses a second, you're going really fast. But you're going fast enough to where at that point you can either just let the engine shut off or you can, increase your speed more. There really is no limit to how fast you can pulse, because pulsing is the concept of pushing yourself just a little faster than you were going before.
That is, yeah. Like I said, it's very solid theory. I'm really interested to see if that's where they take, like, if they take your idea and apply it.
All right, so countries, ever since I started talking about it publicly in the past 4 years, countries that have taken my theories seriously are China, Sweden, Norway, and America. Those are countries that are actually doing things with the stuff I'm talking about, but I don't know where they're getting this from. I don't know if they picked it up from me actually, or if they're doing the research parallel with me doing the research. Do you understand? I can't be the only one coming to these conclusions with these things. There's got to be other people thinking along the same parallels as me. So I'm thinking the two are paralleling each other. When I come up with new ideas and thoughts about the thing, so is somebody else on another part of the world, and they're probably working for the right people, whereas I'm only working to endeavor my own curiosities for most of this. You know what I mean? I share with people when I can, people that'll listen like you and your audience, but for the most part, I don't really talk a lot about it publicly unless asked about it or um, or it just becomes like a topic of subject, like space travel's cool, blah blah blah. Then you'll get the naysayer, oh, we'll never travel through space. Well, actually, you know, space travel is very achievable, type of deal. Anyhow, I think it's pretty solid. Some of the things that have to be confirmed for some of this to be usable is first we have to confirm that uh, Newton's laws actually are Newton's laws and that they work in the way they say they would, right? Object in motion stays in motion unless they're bound by an outside force. Well, if we just apply that simply, the pulsation method works. Newton's law argues for the pulsing method because the outside force is the magnetic reaction. The object is the shift. So if we create the outside force, the obvious thing is the ship's going to have the reaction to the outside force. It's just the principle of Newton's law. I'm not going against Newton's law when I design this ship. I'm going with Newton's law for it. So along with Einstein's theories, I'm applying his theories. I'm not discrediting his theories. I'm saying, hey, yes, we should use these theories, but we don't need to use these theories for bad things. We should start dissecting these theories more. So, like I said, everybody looks at Einstein's train experiment, and they're always getting the wrong. They're getting the right answers, but they're still getting the wrong answers sometimes. I think. And what
It's
the
frustrating.
oh, it's so frustrating when they're not looking at the full bigger picture. Because yeah, the movement of the train mattered. It mattered totally, and how the train got to its speed mattered, and everything. So I think if we start looking at it from that kind of aspect, we'll be doing good. We'll get there. Other things, I think we need to go back and ask Dr. Carl Sagan why he uh, stops his theory of when he explains the theory. Dr. Carl Sagan talks about the theory of dimensions. It's one of his like big award-winning things. And I feel like he's cutting us short somewhere, or he's cutting something off, and he's not talking about it. However, to give you the basic principle of it,
Yeah,
Dr. Sagan says a one-dimensional object lives in 2D, and a two-dimensional object lives in 3D, and then
yeah.
a three-dimensional object also lives in 3D.
A super dimensional?
No, did you not hear me? He
No,
didn't.
I didn't hear that last part about the
He,
something or other.
he did not follow the trend. There's a trend, right? If a
Yeah,
one-dimensional object lives in two dimensions and a two-dimensional object lives in three dimensions, what should the trend continue? The trend should be a three-dimensional object lives in four dimensions.
yeah,
Why do we not continue this trend? Why do we say that us humans, us 3D things, why do we say that we live in a three-dimensional universe? Our universe should be considered the fourth dimension. Based on that principle alone, that whole concept, we should be calling space the fourth dimension. And it's easily measurable. And that's what my board was talking about, my whiteboard that I was showing you. I have this
yes.
object that's drawn to kind of represent what 4D is. Do you see
Ah, yeah. Like,
that?
I do agree that we are more so in a four-dimensional plane of existence.
Yeah, so this is kind of trying to represent or try to help you understand like 4D. And then here's the more in-depth representation of what 4D looks like. So, um, and basically, what all I'm just saying is, we as 3D objects, we are three-dimensional. But here's the thing: I'm three-dimensional, but I just moved my arm into a four-dimensional type of situation because I bent my arm. It went from being 3D this way to now it's 3D two different directions. And the only way for one object to become 3D in two different directions is if the space it's in has four dimensions. And it just has to be that. I don't see it any other way. And then if we can supply all this, we can support other people who are coming forward with new things too, with new science as well, because
I
this
think that is important that we keep on exploring other varieties of ways of doing this because at the end of it, you never know. We might be able to make something better sooner.
what I'm finding is if we start applying this 4D, all the problems that we're not being able to reconcile s- or this 4D math input into these calculations are causing it to equal out or to balance or to resolve. And I think we should keep looking into that then. If the that input is causing us to get the equation to balance out the way we want to, not the solution, but something that should be looked into at least as
Yeah,
to why it does that. As to where, because when we put it in and try to as a three-dimensional only, what we end up finding is that there's a bunch of more math that's led to instead of it creating an answer. It's just like it drags us on. That's where we come up with the decimal point for pi because of we're stuck in the three-dimensional thinking, I think. So that kind of a thing. I don't know how else to say it. Like we wouldn't have to have the pi decimals if we did this, I think.
I I agree
It
because
could not. I could be crazy. I could be completely crazy.
well, it's kind of people still look at this theory as taboo, but I don't know why. It makes a lot of sense, and if you think about it, you go through the research and everything, you find out that it is very theory. It is very possible.
Uh, I mean, it was back in about 2011 when we started writing everything down,
Yes.
and then so that book I showed you, I've done other things. There's other scientific experiments to kind of like add to or back up what I was talking about. I didn't just do this, back then I did. I learned other things like I have the calculations needed to create a magnetic torus on a space station. That's
Mm-hmm.
a you need field on space stations to protect from radiation. If you don't do that, you won't be able to have space stations. You won't be able to go into space. So that's something that we need to know is yes, the safety in space is if we can create a magnetic torus large to create a field of it to protect us from certain types of waves. All we have to really do is study the magnetic torus of Earth, and we've been doing that for almost 70 years now. I think we're getting a little bit better. Um, let's see. Yes, the theory of space travel and the outcome to cause that. Um, Here's slingshot acceleration work. I did all the. I wrote down and studied slingshot acceleration. I
What
was
is an
studying to see if it was
there?
space travel, like
Like
as
the slingshot.
basically what it is the straw man. I wanted to have a straw man, so I could prove like, hey, I looked it up, I studied it, I consumed all the information I could on it, but it's really more just a straw man argument. We can't do those. Like we can't do that. It just doesn't work that way. So that was one of those things. Um, yeah, it was a really fun little experiment, but I wrote down as I went through those things. Um, let's see. Yeah. Just my brain goes into more of this stuff on how to just the rest of the math and the thought process on how to get gravity and a torch on a space station. Weird drawings I draw. Oh, hey, things on how to get a lightsaber to really work. A real one. Particles.
Well, there is a guy out there that made a, well, more or less made a lightsaber. It's a butane powered lightsaber. I
I
think
agree.
a real lightsaber would be more fun if it was powered by a kyber crystal, but those don't exist.
Time travel. I've done those. That's all in here too. This book has everything. My thoughts on that as well. How to achieve it. How to create a time vortex. All that fun stuff.
Well, see, as far as that goes, I think the best way that we would probably be able to do it would be like Star Trek.
That's possible.
Because that would be a massive energy surge if you were to jump through it.
Yeah.
In theory, I can see why Spock says it works. But that would be a lot of math.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not good at math.
that's my whole theory on it. And then a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, you're gonna use pulses to speed up. How are you gonna slow down in time?" Well, that's why I did the studying on the slingshot technology. Okay. So if you speed up really, really fast, how do you think would be a good way to slow down?
Yeah.
Maybe slingshot your way into a slower trajectory around a star or a large gas planet? Instead of speeding up, use the planet to slow you down? You couldn't do that. I think you could.
I'm
So,
inclined to agree because it can help you speed up, technically, in theory, too.
yeah.
But I have been known to be wrong before.
Yeah.
A lot of a lot of science theory on this topic is still just theory. But what NASA's talking about is a little out there, I think. Shooting ourselves into a wormhole.
Oh, yeah. That's all fun. They don't only want to do NASA people looking to teleport the first human now. They said they've got it down. They figured it out. They're ready to try. I was like, you're ready to try. But yeah, they want
What did they send first for, inanimate object or, animal?
to data bits through. They've sent solid matter like apples through, but they haven't sent us through. So they want to know. They want to know what happens to humans when they go through.
Yeah.
I bet it would be terrifying to be turned into bits of light and then put back together.
Oh, that would be mortifying, I think. I just hope it doesn't. Like, if that were to go on, I I just hope you didn't feel it. Just imagine feeling that, getting ripped apart atom by atom, and then reassembled on the other side of God knows where.
Right?
Or in God's nowhere. Never know, you might wind up on a planet full of helium. Be singing like you're Michael Jackson by the time they get you back. Be hitting those ultra high notes. Uh, so, what are you like? What parts are you working on?
What do you mean?
Like you said, you were tight. pulling, cutting out parts. I thought.
Oh, I got the parts cut out. I'm just sanding them and getting them ready. I'm working on a Zaku 2 Black TriStar. I'm on
Oh,
the third, I'm on the third kit. I got Once I get the third one built, then I can put a layer of gloss on them, and then I can start detailing them. It's kind of my process of doing things. I recommend everybody protect your plastic and put top coats down, gloss coats, whatever you can. Paint your stuff. Because when you start adding panel liners and pore markers and all sorts of different types of things to your kit, it makes your plastics brittle, and then a month or two later, you'll go to try and repose your kit, and it'll just snap into pieces, and you'll be like, "What happened?" Lots of people don't realize that's how your kits break. That's how your kits break. So, advice from WebC.
yes.
Uh, I
I'm
probably
still practicing with my top coat, trying to get that stuff down.
Yeah, it is a finicky thing. That's why I went to airbrushing with instead of using rattle cans, because rattle cans I found are very inconsistent on the top coating, and some people swear up and down by it, and I'm so happy it works well for them. But after the experiences I've had with top coating, to anymore. What the hell? Bit?
Hmm?
You got a bug hanging out by your Gundam.
Oh shit!
What's up, homie?
In the basement right now.
Yeah.
They're probably. I'm on the other side of the laundry room, so probably is a little critter or two gonna show up. Don't worry, he's dead.
A little basement buddy. Oh, you took him out too. Sad day.
Come here, buddies. I'll get you.
There's your protein. Uh-oh.
No, I don't want that kind of protein, dude. That's just grody.
Yeah. So
I'm
and
not. I'm not 90 days in.
yeah. So yeah, that's all. I think to review what I was.
Well, like I said, you put a lot of thought into it, and like always, I enjoy our conversations on these kind of topics. And I think I'll call it there for now.
Awesome.
All right, so give me a second here. I gotta switch camera views. Ah! So, like always, stay nerdy, keep rocking, and always be blessed. And you want to say later?